This is IDS 110, Chapter 9, Improving Your Performance on Exams and Tests. Student Profile, J.B. Espinal. Jamie was born in Mexico City and has lived in North Carolina since age 6. After working as a self-employed truck driver, Jamie decided to enter Pitt Community College because he realized college was important for his goals and financial future. Jamie reviews course materials periodically throughout the term and the day before the exam and tries to get enough sleep the night before the exam. Jamie admits having a negative attitude about one course, that he didn't understand why he needed it, and consequently he did not pay attention. When he received his exam score, Jamie was not pleased. He decided to approach the class with an open mind, to take an interest in the material, and to explore how it applied to life and his studies. Jamie's good grades have made him a member of an honor society. Jamie's advice to other first-year students is not to slack off thinking you can make it up later. Try to do well from the start. You never know when you may need some room for error later on. If something seems hard, face it and try your best. You can do anything you want with perseverance and determination. Identify strategies that best help you prepare for exams and use them. Analysis, synthesis, and evaluation requires that you give supportive evidence for your opinions and shows your instructor how you think. Getting prepared for tests and exams. Believe it or not, you actually begin preparing for a test on the first day of the term. All of your lecture notes, assigned readings, and homework are part of that preparation. As the test day nears, you should know how much additional time you will need for review, what material the test will cover, and what format the test will take. It is very important to double-check the exam dates on your syllabus and to incorporate those dates into your overall time management system, for example, in your daily or weekly to-do list or planner. Double-check with your instructor about the test dates. Sometimes they are changed, so be sure to keep up with this. Specific suggestions to prepare wear for any exam. Ask your instructor. Find out the purpose, the type of questions, the conditions, how much time you will have to complete the exam, and content to be covered on the exam. Talk with your instructor to clarify any misunderstandings you might have about your reading or lecture notes. Some instructors may let you see copies of old exams so you can see the types of questions they use. Never miss the last class before an exam because the instructor might summarize valuable information. Specific exam preparation tips. Manage your preparation time wisely. Create a schedule that gives you adequate time to prepare without waiting to cram the night before. Try to build a flexible schedule for life's unexpected events. Spreading your exam preparation sessions out over several days allows you to continue to process the information between study sessions. Let family and friends know when you have exams and how that will affect your time with them. Focus your study. Figure out what you can effectively review that is likely to be on the exam. Collaborate with other students to share information and try to attend all test or exam review sessions offered by your instructor. Prepare physically. Maintain your regular sleep routine. To do well on an exam, you will need to be alert so that you can think clearly. You are more likely to be alert when you are well rested. Last night cramming that robs you of sufficient sleep is not an effective study strategy. Follow your regular exercise program. Physical activity also helps you prepare for exams. Exercise is a positive way to relieve stress and to give you a needed break from the long hours of studying. Eat right. Eat a light breakfast before a morning exam and avoid greasy or acidic foods that might upset your stomach. Limit the number of caffeinated beverages you drink on the day of the exam because caffeine makes you jittery. Choose fruits, vegetables, and other foods that are high in energy-rich complex carbohydrates. Avoid eating sweets before an exam. The immediate energy boost they create can be quickly followed by a loss of energy and alertness. Ask the instructor if you may have water during the exam. Know your material. If you have given yourself adequate time to review, you should feel confident as you approach the exam. Study by testing yourself or others in a study group to be sure you really know the material. Practice relaxing. Some students experience upset stomachs, sweaty palms, racing hearts, or other unpleasant physical symptoms of test anxiety. Learn relaxation techniques to overcome test anxiety. Use positive self-talk. Make positive statements to yourself. I have attended all the lectures, done the homework, and passed the quizzes. I am ready to do well on this exam. Find out about the test. Ask your instructor what format the test will have, such as essay, multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, short answer, or other. Ask how long the test will last and how it will be graded. Ask whether all questions will have the same point value. Design an exam plan. Use the information about the exam as you design a plan to prepare for it. Schedule review dates. Develop a to-do list of major steps you need to take to be ready. Be sure you have read and learned all the material by 1 week before the exam. That way, you have the final week to review and prepare. Set aside 1-hour blocks with specific tasks to accomplish to prepare for the exam. Join a study group. You can benefit from different views of your instructor's goals, objectives, and emphasis. Have your study partners quiz you on facts and concepts. You will gain the support and friendship of others to help sustain your motivation. Some instructors will provide time in class for the formation of study groups. Prepare study questions and points of discussion before the group meets. Preparing for math and science exams. Do your homework regularly, even if it is not graded, and do all the assigned problems. By carefully completing the homework, it will serve as a review for the test. Attend each class and always be on time. Many instructors use the time at the beginning of class to review any homework. Create a review guide and make sure you have a representative problem from each session or class. Keep a list of definitions and important formulas. These are great to put on flashcards. Review 1 or 2 of these daily. Display definitions or formulas prominently in your living space to embed it into your mind. Taking tests and exams. Throughout your college career, you will take tests in many formats, in many subject areas, and with different types of questions. Tips for successful test taking in any test situation. Write your name on the test unless asked not to. Analyze, ask, and stay calm. Before you start the test, take a deep breath and slowly exhale. Carefully read all the directions before you begin so you understand what you're supposed to do. Be confident and don't panic. Make the best use of your time. Quickly survey the entire test and point values for each. The higher point sections deserve more of your time. Jot down idea starters before the test. Before you even look at the test, take a moment to write down formulas, definitions, and major ideas you have been studying. Answer the easy questions first. Answer the easy questions first and come back to more difficult questions later. Do the section that you are most comfortable with first. Be sure to leave enough time for essay questions. If you feel yourself starting to panic or go blank, stop what you are doing, take a long deep breath and slowly exhale. Remind yourself you can do this. You may need to leave the section that triggered your anxiety and return to it later. If you finish early, don't leave. Stay and check your work for errors. Reread the directions one last time. If using a Scantron answer sheet, make sure all the bubbles have been filled in accurately and completely. Essay questions. Essay questions promote higher order critical thinking, whereas other types of exams tend to be exercises in memorization. Budget your exam time. Quickly survey the entire exam. Note the questions that are easiest for you along with their point values. Be sure to know whether you must answer all the questions or choose among the questions. Make sure to allow adequate time for higher point value questions. Develop a very brief outline of your answer before you begin to write. Make sure your outline responds to all parts of the question. Use your first paragraph to introduce the main points and subsequent paragraphs to describe each point in more depth. If you are running out of time, at least provide an outline of key ideas. Instructors will usually assign some points on the basis of your coverage of main topics from the material. Write concise, organized answers. Read the question carefully and respond to it. Vague answers, not responding to each point, and/or not answering the question posed will all cause you to lose points. Know the key task words in essay questions. Being familiar with the key task word in an essay question will help you to answer it more specifically. Key task words include analyze, to divide something into its parts in order to understand it better, to show how the parts work together to produce the overall pattern. Compare. Look at the characteristics or qualities of several things and identify their similarities or differences. Don't just describe the traits, define how things are alike and how they are different. Contrast. Identify the differences between things. Criticize, critique is to analyze and judge something. Criticism can be positive, negative, or both. A criticism should generally contain your own judgment supported by evidence and those of authorities who can support your point. Define. Give the meaning of a word or expression. Giving an example sometimes helps to clarify a definition, but an example by itself is not a definition. Describe. Give a general verbal sketch of something in narrative or other form. Discuss. Examine or analyze something in a broad and detailed way. Discussion often includes identifying the most important questions related to an issue and attempting to answer those questions. A good discussion explores all relevant evidence and information. Evaluate. Discuss the strengths and weaknesses of something. Evaluation is similar to criticism, but the word evaluate stresses the idea of how well something meets a certain standard or fulfills some specific purpose. Explain. Clarify something. Explanations generally focus on why or how something has come about. Interpret. Explain the meaning of something. In science, you might explain what an experiment shows and what conclusions can be drawn from it. In a literature course, you might explain or interpret what a poem means beyond the literal meaning of the words. Justify. Argue in support of some decision or conclusion by showing sufficient evidence or reasons in its favor. Try to support your argument with both logical and concrete examples. And narrate. Relate a series of events in the order in which they occurred. Generally, you will also be asked to explain something about the events you are narrating. Outline. Present a series of main points in an appropriate order. Some instructors want an outline with Roman numerals for main points, followed by letters for supporting details. If you are in doubt, ask the instructor whether he or she wants a formal outline. Prove. Give a convincing logical argument and evidence of support of some statement. Review. Summarize and comment on the main parts of a problem or a series of statements. A review question usually also asks you to evaluate or criticize. Summarize. Give information in brief form, omitting examples and details. A summary is short but covers all important points. Trace. Narrate a course of events. Whenever possible, you should show connections from one event to the next. Multiple choice questions. Preparing for multiple choice tests requires you to actively review all of the material that has been covered in the course. Reciting from flashcards, summary sheets, mind maps, or the recall column in your lecture notes is a good way to review large amounts of material. Take advantage of the many cues that multiple choice questions contain. Careful reading of the question might uncover the correct answer. Always question choices that use absolute words such as always, never, and only. These questions are often, but not always, incorrect. Also, read carefully for terms such as not, except, and but, which are introduced before the choices. Often, the answer that is the most inclusive is correct. Generally, options that do not agree grammatically with the first part of the item are incorrect. The best way to respond to a multiple choice question is to read the first part of the item and then predict your own answer before reading the options. If you are totally confused by a question, mark it, leave it, and come back later, but always double check that you did answer it. Sometimes another question will provide a clue for a question you are unsure about. Fill in the blank questions. A little more difficult than multiple choice because the answers are not right in front of you. The number of blanks may be given that corresponds to the number of answers. However, some instructors just provide one long blank. If possible, ask the instructor whether the answer is supposed to be a single word per blank or can be a longer phrase. True-false questions. Remember, for a statement to be true, every detail of the sentence must be true. Questions containing words such as always, never, and only tend to be false, whereas less definite terms such as often and frequently suggest the statement might be true. Read through the entire exam to see whether information in one question will help you answer another. Do not begin to second-guess what you know or doubt your answers just because a sequence of questions appears to be all true or all false. Matching questions. The matching question is the hardest type of question to answer by guessing. Before answering any question, review all of the terms and descriptions. Then match the terms you are sure of. As you do, cross out both the term and its description and use the process of elimination to assist you in answering the remaining items. To prepare for matching questions, try using flashcards and lists that you create from the recall column in your notes. Problem-solving test. Some tests will require you to solve problems showing all steps. Whenever possible, after you complete the problem, work it in reverse to check your solution or plug your solution back into the equation to be sure that it works. Machine-scored test. It is important to carefully follow the directions for machine-scored test. Make sure your answer corresponds to the proper item on the test. If you want to skip a question, mark it on the exam and be sure not to forget to answer it later. Stray marks on the answer sheet may be misread as a wrong answer. Be sure to fill in the test as directed. Fill in the circle completely using only a number 2 lead pencil. Computerized test. For multiple choice and other objective forms of computerized tests, you might be able to scroll down and back throughout the entire test, but this is not always the case. Sometimes you are only allowed to see one question at a time, and after you answer the question, you may not go back to another section. If you cannot skip questions and return to them, answer the question to the best of your ability and move on. Be sure to take advantage of every opportunity to take a practice exam. Know what materials you are allowed to have on hand, including a calculator and scratch paper for solving problems. Laboratory test. In many science courses and in some academic disciplines, you will be required to take lab tests during which you rotate from one lab station to the next and solve problems, identify parts of models or specimens, explain chemical reactions, and complete other tasks similar to those that you've been performing in lab. To prepare for lab tests, always attend lab, take good notes, including diagrams and other visual representations as necessary, and be sure to study your lab notebook carefully before the test. If using a different symbol system, the best way to prepare for tests is to learn the meanings and parts of the symbols and regularly practice writing them. Open book and open note test. If you never had open book or open note tests in high school, you might be tempted to study less thoroughly, thinking that you will have access to all the information you need during the test. This is a common misjudgment on the part of first-year students. Open book and open note tests are usually harder than other exams, not easier. Most students don't really have time to spend looking things up during an open book exam. The best way to prepare is to develop a list of topics and page numbers where they are covered in the text. Monitor your time. Don't waste time unnecessarily looking up information in your text or notes to double-check yourself if you are reasonably sure of your answer. Finish the test and then, if you have time, go back and look up answers and make any necessary changes. Sometimes the only reason a teacher allows open book or open notes is for students to properly reference their sources when responding to essay or short answer tests. Make sure to clarify whether you are expected to document your answers and provide a reference or works cited list. Take-home test. Like open book and open note tests, take-home tests are usually more difficult than in-class tests. Many take-home tests are essay tests, though some teachers will give take-home objective tests. Issues of academic honesty can arise for take-home tests. If you are accustomed to working with a study group or in a learning community for the course, check with the teacher in advance to determine the extent to which collaboration is allowed on the test. Overcoming test anxiety. Test anxiety takes many forms and is common. Test anxiety has many sources. It can be the result of the pressure that students put on themselves to be successful. Without any pressure, students would not be motivated to study. Some stress connected with taking exams is natural and can enhance performance. However, when students put too much pressure on themselves or set unrealistic goals, the result is stress that is no longer motivating, only debilitating. Sometimes the source of pressure is from parents, a spouse, friends, or other people who are close to you and have expectations for your performance. Some test anxiety is caused by lack of preparation, by not keeping up with assigned reading, homework, and other academic commitments leading up to the test. Procrastination can begin a downward spiral because after you do poorly on the first exam in a course, there is even more pressure to do well on subsequent tests to pull up your course grade. The situation becomes even more dire if the units of the course build on one another, as in math and foreign languages, or if the final exam is cumulative. You have to master the new material while still trying to catch up on the old material as well. Some test anxiety comes from a negative prior experience. Transcending the memory of negative past experiences can be a challenge, but remember that the past is not the present. Perhaps there are good reasons why you performed poorly in the past. You might not have prepared for the test, you might not have read the question carefully, or you might not have studied with other students or sought prior assistance from your instructor or a tutor. Remember, a little test anxiety is okay, but if the anxiety is getting in the way of your performance on tests, seek help. Types of test anxiety. Students who experience test anxiety under some circumstances don't necessarily feel it in all testing situations. For example, you might do fine on classroom tests but feel anxious during standardized exams such as the SAT or ACT. One reason standardized tests are so anxiety-provoking is the notion that they determine your future. Believing the stakes are so high can create unbearable pressure. One way to relieve anxiety is to ask yourself, what is the worst thing that can happen if you don't do well? How you perform on standardized tests may certainly limit some of your options, but going into a test with a negative attitude will certainly be of no benefit to you. Practice the type of tests that seem to give you trouble. For example, if you fear essays, write some questions and practice outlining and answering them. Test anxiety can be subject-specific. For example, some students have math anxiety. It is important to distinguish between subject matter anxiety and more generalized test anxiety. Prepare well and use positive self-talk. Tell yourself you can and will do well on that exam. If needed, get help in overcoming irrational fears regarding testing. Symptoms of test anxiety. Test anxiety can manifest itself in many ways. Some students feel it on the very first day of class. Other students begin showing symptoms of test anxiety when it's time to start studying for a test. Others do not get nervous until the night before the test or the morning of the exam day. Some students only experience anxiety symptoms while they are taking the test. Specific symptoms of test anxiety include butterflies in the stomach, queasiness or nausea, severe headaches, a faster heartbeat, hyperventilating, shaking, sweating, or muscle cramps. During the exam itself, students who are overcome with test anxiety can experience the sensation of going blank, that is, being unable to remember what they actually know. At this point, students can undermine both their emotional and academic preparation for the test and convince themselves that they cannot succeed. Test anxiety can impede the success of any college student, no matter how intelligent, motivated, and prepared. If you need help dealing with anxiety, you can go to a counselor. If you become physically ill due to severe symptoms, have migraine headaches, hyperventilate, or vomit, you should see your doctor. Strategies for combating test anxiety. In addition to studying, eating right, and getting plenty of sleep, there are a number of strategies to overcome the physical and emotional impact of test anxiety. When you begin to feel nervous, take a slow deep breath to restore your breathing to normal. This is the quickest and easiest relaxation device. Just breathe. Stretch your muscles, particularly your neck muscles, before you begin the test. Try to maintain a relaxed posture. Anxiety-reducing techniques practiced by counselors include systematic desensitization, progressive muscular relaxation, and visualization. One of the most popular techniques is creating your own peaceful scene and mentally taking yourself there when you need to relax. Try to use all 5 senses to recreate your peaceful scene in your mind. What would you see, hear, feel, taste, or smell? These strategies can assist you in relaxing physically, but meanwhile, you must also pay attention to the mental messages that you are sending yourself. Focus on the positive. If you have a tendency to tell yourself negative things, you need to turn those messages around with a technique called cognitive restructuring. Cognitive restructuring is a technique of applying positive thinking and giving oneself encouraging messages rather than self-defeating negative ones. Similarly, do not allow others, including classmates, your spouse, partner, parents, or friends, to undermine your confidence. Sometimes going to the testing room early will expose you to other students who are asking questions or making comments that make you nervous. Get to the building early, but do not enter the testing room until just a few minutes before the exam. Breathe deep, relax, and use your positive self-talk. Getting the test back. Students react differently when they receive their test grades and papers. For some students, the thought of seeing the graded test produces high levels of anxiety. Look at the instructor's comments and be sure to check the score. If there is an error, be sure to let the instructor know. It is important to review your graded test. You might find that your mistakes were caused by failing to follow directions, being careless with words or numbers, or overanalyzing a multiple-choice question. Academic honesty and misconduct. Integrity is a cornerstone of higher education. Institutions vary widely in how they define broad terms such as lying or cheating. One school defines cheating as intentionally using or attempting to use unauthorized materials, information, notes, study aids, or other devices, including unauthorized communication of information during an academic exercise. This would apply to looking over a classmate's shoulder for an answer, using a calculator when it is not authorized, obtaining or discussing an exam or individual questions from an exam without permission, copying someone else's lab notes, purchasing term papers over the internet, watching the video instead of reading the book, and duplicating computer files. Plagiarism. Plagiarism, or taking another person's ideas or work and presenting them as your own, is especially intolerable in academic culture. Just as taking someone else's property constitutes physical theft, taking credit for someone else's ideas constitutes intellectual theft. On most tests, you don't have to credit specific sources, but some instructors do require this. When in doubt, ask. In written reports and papers, however, you must give credit for any time you use another person's actual words, another person's ideas or theories, even if you don't quote them directly, or any other information that is not considered common knowledge. Many schools prohibit certain activities in addition to lying, cheating, unauthorized assistance, and plagiarism. Some examples of prohibited behaviors are intentionally inventing information or results, earning credit more than once for the same piece of academic work without permission, giving work or exam answers to another student to copy during the actual exam or before the actual exam, before that exam is given to another section, bribing in exchange for any kind of academic advantage. Most schools also outlaw helping or attempting to help another student commit a dishonest act. Consequences of plagiarism. Plagiarism is the act of taking another person's ideas or work and presenting it as your own. Although you might see some students who seem to be getting away with cheating or plagiarizing, the consequences of such behaviors can be severe and life-changing. This gross academic misconduct can result in suspension or expulsion, and even the revocation of a violator's college degree. Despite serious consequences, 42% of students witness academic dishonesty or cheating in their first year. Consequences of plagiarism. Writers and journalists who plagiarized have been discovered, such as Jason Blair, formerly of the New York Times, and Stephen Glass, formerly of the New Republic, have lost their jobs and their journalistic careers. Even college presidents have occasionally been found guilty of borrowing the words of others and using them as their own in speeches and written documents. Such discoveries result not only in embarrassment and shame, but also in lawsuits and criminal actions. Faculty members may use electronic systems such as www.turnitin.com to identify passages in student papers that have been plagiarized. Do not risk it. Reducing the likelihood of academic dishonesty. To avoid becoming intentionally or unintentionally involved in academic misconduct, consider the reasons why it could happen. Ignorance. In a survey at the University of South Carolina, 20% of students incorrectly thought that buying a term paper wasn't cheating. 40% thought that using a test file, a collection of actual tests from previous terms, was fair behavior. 60% thought it was acceptable to get answers from someone who had taken the exam earlier in the same or in a prior term. Culture and campus difference. In other countries and on some U.S. campuses, students are encouraged to review past exams to practice exercises. Some student government associations maintain test files for use by students. Some campuses permit sharing answers and information for homework and other assignments with friends. Make sure you know the policy here at MSU West Plains. Different policies among instructors. Ask the instructor since there is no universal code. Pleading ignorance is a weak defense if one is caught violating the academic code of the institution. A belief that grades are all that matters. This could be the result of society's competitive atmosphere. It might be the result of pressure from parents, peers, or teachers. In truth, grades are nothing if one has cheated to get them. Even if grades can help you get a job, it is what you have actually learned that will help you keep the job and be promoted. If you have not learned what you need to know, you will not be ready to work in your chosen field. lack of preparation, or inability to manage time and activities. If you are tempted to cheat because you are unprepared, ask the instructor to extend the deadline so that the project can be done well. Guidelines for academic honesty. Know the rules. Learn the academic code for MSU West Plains and for each instructor you have. Set clear boundaries. Refuse to participate in cheating. Improve time management. Be well prepared for all quizzes, exams, projects, and papers. This may mean unlearning habits such as procrastination. Seek help. Find out where you can get help with study skills, time management, and test taking. If your methods are good but the material is just really difficult, consult your instructor for help, consider a study group, and/or using the Tutoring Learning Center. Withdraw from the course. MSU West Plains has a policy about dropping courses and a deadline to drop without penalty. You might decide to drop a course that is giving you trouble. Some students choose to withdraw from all classes and take time off before returning to school if they find themselves in over their heads, or if a long illness, family crisis, or some other unexpected occurrence has caused them to fall behind. Before you withdraw, you should ask about campus policies as well as ramification in terms of federal financial aid and other scholarship programs. See your advisor or counselor. Re-examine your goals. Stick to realistic goals rather than giving in to pressure from others to achieve impossibly high standards. You might feel pressure to enter a particular career or profession that you are not interested in. If this happens, sit down with your advisor or other career planning professional and explore career alternatives. Checklist for success. Doing your best on exams and tests. Learn as much as you can about the type of test you will be taking. Start preparing for the test during the first day of the course. Prepare physically through proper sleep, diet, and exercise. Prepare yourself emotionally by being relaxed and confident. If you experience severe test anxiety, seek help from your counseling center. Develop a systematic plan of preparation for every test. Be specific about when you are going to study, how long, and what material you will cover. Join a study group and participate conscientiously and regularly. Students who join study groups perform better on tests. Never cheat or plagiarize. Experience the satisfaction that comes from learning and doing your own work, and from knowing you don't have to worry about getting caught or using material that may be incorrect. Make sure you understand what constitutes cheating and plagiarism at MSU West Plains so that you don't inadvertently do either. If you are not clear, ask your instructors or the professionals in the Campus Tutoring Center or Writing Center. And this is the end of Chapter 9 in IDS 110.